Hi, this is Joe again with another video. This is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be not my standard movie reviews. I'm going to do like a tribute video here for this one for a radio icon who passed away on just a couple of days ago, on December 27, 2019. It was this past Friday. I'm doing it on Monday, December 30th, 2019. This video of radio icon Don Imus, who passed away from lung problems, which he had for a long time. And I'm talking about a radio icon, a guy who had about a 50-year career in radio, and he won the Marconi Award, I think, about 3-4 times. He's in the Radio Hall of Fame. He had one of the highest rated, most successful radio shows of all time, Imus in the Morning Show, which was on WFAN for about 19 years, 1988 to even more 2007, which we're going to eventually get into, as well as being on for 11 years on WABC radio, which he ended in the March or April, actually at the end of March 2008, or excuse me, 2018. I almost said 2008. It was 2018 when he ended his show, which is another issue altogether, which I might try to remember to bring that up in this video. And of course, it's been like a little more than a year and a half later, he just passed away. This past Friday. So, but the issue I want to get into is, of course, not only my favorite memories of Imus, but a particular post by the Huffington Post, which I have to mention, calling Don Imus a racist DJ. Now, of course, this has to do with what happened back in 2007, which I think I did a review on, was when Don Imus, when he just had the 2007 Women's Championship game in college basketball, where he had Rutgers women's basketball team, I think, versus Tennessee, and Rutgers just got the rear ends kicked. I mean, the game wasn't exactly a blowout, but when they didn't lose, but I say 50 points, but they got their rear ends kicked and they lost. And the next morning, Imus was talking about. They did the sports report, and the show was simulcast on MSNBC. So on the simulcast, they were showing clips of or highlights or lowlights, depending on what team you were rooting for, of the Rutgers women's basketball team losing the championship game in the basketball tournament. And Imus said, but his producer, Bernard McGurk, who has now his radio show, took over his radio show now as the part of the Bring Us His show on ABC Radio here in New York. Both of them said the term nappy-headed hoes. Right? Because of the way the Rutgers women's players looked. I mean, the way they had their hair, the tattoos, and they're really rough-looking girls. I mean, they're not exactly drop-dead gorgeous, these girls. I'm serious, they weren't. I'm not saying they weren't all, ugly, right? But they weren't drop-dead gorgeous either. I mean, the way they had their hair, the way they had, some of them had tattoos and stuff like that. So I was making fun of the way they look, with the tattoos and everything. So he called them nappy-headed hoes. Within, I think it was like less than a week, he ended up getting fired. First, he got suspended from MSNBC, because MSNBC is like one of the most liberal, along with CNN, it's like one of the most liberal networks ever on cable channels, and they immediately fired, stopped simulcasting the Imus show after that, even though they've been doing it for a few years. I think they've been doing it for roughly 10 years, ever since MSNBC stored it as a cable channel. They were simulcasting the Imus in the Morning Show because they knew they were going to get ratings for the channel by having Imus there. And so, they fired him, and about a week later, CBS Radio fired Imus because he said nappy-headed host. And of course, and Imus actually sued CBS Radio because he still had a contract for like another 2 years. He had another contract. He still had his contract for 2 years, and CBS didn't honor his contract because they caved into Al Sharpton and his cronies. Even though Imus did go on an apology tour, he apologized to the Rutgers team as a whole and the coach. All right, which the coach, which nobody even mentions so far, even at that time they even mentioned it, that the coach of the Rutgers women's basketball team had, before she got the job at Rutgers and during her time as coach of Rutgers basketball team, she used to abuse her players. C. Vivian Stringer, whatever her name was, she had a habit of not only verbally abusing her players, but physically abusing them as well. And they've kind of forget all that stuff because Imus called her team a bunch of nappy-headed hoes. So, and even one of the players on the team, and none of the players ever heard who Imus. I'm sure all of them who knew who Howard Stern was, but none of them knew who Imus was. And one of them decided to get a class action lawsuit to get the whole team involved in the lawsuit to take Imus to court for making fun of him on the radio. None of the other players joined in the lawsuit, so the lawsuit was immediately dropped, pretty much. It didn't go anywhere. But Imus sued CBS Radio, and he did get an out-of-court settlement for it. But 7 months later, in December of 2007, he got his show back on the air on ABC. Originally, he was going to have a show on 710 WOR radio here in New York, but he said, and come back and agree to whoever won't pay me, unless you sign hire Bernie as well as my producer. And said WOR won't do it, but WABC did, and so that's how Imus got back on the air. And he stayed on the air till about like March of 2018, because the radio station that, or the company that now owns WABC, I think they eventually sold it now, but when they sold it again. But the company who owned WABC at the time filed for bankruptcy, and they said to Imus, even though he had his contract through December 2018, and Imus was considering retiring then in the end of December 2018, a year ago, but ABC says, look, we cannot afford to pay you anymore. We have to pay you for nothing. We have no money to pay you. So at the end of March 31st, we cannot pay you anymore. You're too expensive. So what Imus decided to do, instead of waiting to the end of December, he retired at the end of March. And at the end of April, Sid Rosenberg and Imus's producer, Bernard McGurk, took over the show. They're already doing a midday show already on WABC, locally on WABC here in New York. And they just said from 9 to 12, or 9 to 11, they did move them to the 6 to 10 a.m. show. And they've been doing it ever since, and they have been doing a great job. And right now they're on the Christmas break right now, so they're not really on the radio. But they had Russ Solzberg on, and he did a great tribute to Imus this morning. And he had his former manager, general manager Joe. I know I'm drawing a blank right now. Joe Hollander, who was Jewish and knew Imus and was general manager for a long, long time. And just a few days earlier, before Imus made the remark, the Nebuchadnezzar Hose remark, Joe Hollander just got promoted in CBS Radio Corporation to be the vice president and general manager of CBS Radio. So he couldn't. But he mentioned a statement in the morning. So I quote him. He said, "If I was still in charge of WFAN at the time that Imus was made the comment, I would not fire him. I would kept him on his job." And the reason for that is because I heard Imus say worse stuff on the radio. He didn't get fired for it. All of a sudden, all the stuff with kind of like, well, I know Joe Hollander did not say this, but Phil Mushnick in the New York Post for the whole thing, and this past Sunday on the December 29th version of the New York Post. Well, the whole thing about how anti-Semitic Don Imus was, especially because he had Len Berman, who was on rock on WOR radio in the morning. When he had his first radio show on WFAN, Imus used to call him Lenny the Jew. And they also had two other Jews on it, like Ross Solzberg and Steve Summers, who used to have a midday show on WFAN. He used to call them Two Live Jews, and he used to make all these Jewish remarks. And not only that, but he used to call Joe Hollander up on Yom Kippur to see if he would be stupid enough to answer the phone on Yom Kippur, which had to be one of the most funniest bits, which we're going to get into in a minute, ever on the Imus in the Morning Show. So you had all that stuff going on, and you had, of course, because Imus always makes fun of everybody. He was an equal opportunity offender. And of course, the most famous thing is on YouTube where Imus made the speech at the Correspondents' Dinner, making fun of Hillary and Bill Clinton, especially when Bill Clinton was on the game where Cal Ripken broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive games record. And at one point, Barmany hits a double, and he says, I think it was Ripken actually hit a double, not Bonilla. He said, and Bill Clinton says, "Go baby," on the TV broadcast, and Imus says, I remember remarking at the time, I bet you that's not the first time Bill Clinton said that. And he says, "Go baby," because it was womanizing race, and everybody went, ooh, and everybody got all bent out of shape over that because he made fun of Clinton with his womanizing stuff. And the funny thing is, a little bit later on that year, you had the whole Monica Lewinsky thing blew up. It's either at the end of that year or the next year, you had the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky saying, "I did not have sex with that woman." And of course, I was making jokes over that. So, not the Monica Lewinsky thing, but because nobody knew about it at that time. I just made that infamous Correspondents' Dinner speech, but people knew what Clinton was then. And of course, and he made jokes about that. So, but at least Joe Hollander says, "Look, I know Imus for a long, long time. He said worse on the radio, and he said worse in the Correspondents' Dinner, and nobody at that time threatened his job. It was only because I know Joe Hollander didn't say this either. I'm blaming on Al Sharpton for having Imus fired, because Sharpton was the one who took these girls, the Rutgers players, and used them to get Don Imus off the air. And that's what he tried to do, and Imus came back on the air and was on the air for like another 11 years after that. So, fuck you, Al Sharpton. Now I feel better. But now, you had, you had that, and you had, and this morning you had Chris Mad Dog Russo, who, thanks to Imus, if it wasn't for Don Imus, okay, you wouldn't have had the most iconic sports radio show of all time, which happens to be the show with Mike Francesa and Chris Mad Dog Russo, the Mike and the Mad Dog Show, which lasted for almost 30 years, and on the radio, at least 25, I think it was between 25 and 30 years, they were on the air, the most successful radio sports talk show of all time. I mean, there wasn't anybody close to these two guys. And it was Imus's idea to put these two guys together. And they did individual shows on WFAN, and Imus says, "Hey, these two guys were really good. I think these two guys would be good on the air together." Because they had problems with another guy who had the afternoon drive time show, Pete Franklin, who was cussing everybody out, and he just fired him, and he died like a few years later. But he said, we have to fill that spot. So Imus says, "Why don't you get Francesa and Russo together?" And it was a great mix. And if it wasn't for Imus, you might have Mike and Mando on there. So those are the two most successful shows in the history of WFAN. And of course, at WFAN has never been the same since they fired Imus in 2007, and I think also about a year later, when Chris Russo left. The Michael Mandock show to go to Sirius Radio. And you can tell us before, you can tell how good WFAN was before Imus and after Imus. And to me, WFAN is not the same. I haven't listened to it as much as I did when I was younger, when WFAN was first on the air, because it's not the same anymore. Because it's become so politically correct after they fired Imus. I still don't think it's right that Imus got fired. And they had, I should also mention they had, his old radio, his newsman, Charles McCoy on there, and he ran on this rant that says, I know, and worked with, Charles McCoy worked with Imus for 21 years, most of his adult life he worked with Imus. And he said on the Ross Solzberg, on the show this morning, Imus does not have not one, despite the way he says on the air, his on-air personality with all the stuff he said on the air, does not have not one racist bone in his body. I know him for 41 years, so you think I know this. And if Don Imus was such a racist, he wouldn't have adopted a black son. He adopted him. Because his name was Zach, and Zach even changed his last name to Imus when they just found out, because Zach was one of the kids, because Imus set up a match for kids with cancer, which I don't think he ran for a long time. I don't think he ran that match for a while. And he was trying to sell. I know if he sold it or not, but I know he was trying to sell the match in New Mexico for kids with cancer. He pretty much gave it up over the last few years of his life. He gave it up. So he had his kids come out there, and Zach was one of the kids with cancer. He's in remission now, thank goodness. And Zach is in the Navy. He's a pilot in the Navy. So if he's such a racist, he wanted to take such good care of this kid. If he was a racist, and he had so many black kids, Hispanic kids, white kids at his ranch during the spring. I think he used to do like 3 or 4 times a year. We have kids over his ranch, particularly during the summer months. We have kids at his ranch learning how to be a cowboy. Giving the poor kids with cancer. He also used to raise money for SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. So for a guy who did so much in his 50 years career, he's been labeled a racist for an 11-second clip of when he said that he had a host. Right? So you had all that crap going on. Then you have because he made so much money for SIDS research, the CJ Foundation for SIDS, the Tomorrow's Children's Fund, kids with cancer, and of course his ranch. As a matter of fact, the day that he got fired, it was in the middle of his radiothon for the Imus Ranch, the CJ Foundation for SIDS, and the Tomorrow Children's Fund. And for Imus, you want to have those charities. I mean, Imus, what he did with those charities, it's like what Jerry Lewis did for the MDA. Because if it was for Jerry Lewis, you want to have the MDA, as it is today, if it was for Jerry Lewis, and all those years during the telethon. And when they fired him, that's why he did that video a couple years ago, people should not donate to the MDA anymore because of what they did to Jerry Lewis, because he helped build that charity. Same thing with, even though other people started the charity, Imus was the one who gave him the voice to his charities and the names for these charities. And of course, that's what he did. Well, before I show off this video, I should mention my favorite memories of Don Imus. I know I was talking for over 19 minutes now, and I didn't discuss my favorite memories of the Imus show, which I should do here. One of my favorite memories of the Imus show when I first started listening to it was, I think it was back in 1991. It was around 1991 when Pee Wee Herman got arrested for exposing himself and actually really was doing. Excuse me. Well, I should mention what he was doing, but since kids are watching and clean up the story a little bit. he was caught exposing himself in an X-rated movie house. And so what happened was he got arrested, and you saw the mugshot with him wearing a goatee. Well, on the Imus show, he had a guy named Larry Kenny who used to impersonate Richard Nixon. So he started off as impersonating Richard Nixon, and he goes, "Let me bring out a special guest on here for my segment here," and it happened to be Pee Wee Herman, or somebody impersonating Pee Wee Herman. And I don't know who did the voice. I really can't say because I really don't know. But Pee Wee Herman says, "Oh, here we go again." It sounds like he was doing something nasty on the video, which I'm not going to say what it is. So Richard Nixon is like interviewing Pee Wee Herman, and he says, "Hey Pee Wee, when I saw you got arrested, you were wearing a goatee. Was that a disguise?" And Pee Wee says, "No, that wasn't a disguise. That was for Pee Wee's Pee Wee." And he goes, "Oh, here we go again." And it sounds like he was doing what he was doing in the X-ray movie house in the segment. It was absolutely funny. Now earlier I mentioned what happened with Joe Hollander, who was then the general manager of WFAN, who was Jewish, and he took the day off for Yom Kippur, which is of course the Day of Atonement, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. And Imus found out that week that Jews are not allowed to use the phone, be on the computer, watch TV, read a book, read a newspaper. You're only supposed to read the prayer book, or go to shul, and that's it, and fast for the day, and that's it. When Imus heard that a Jew is not supposed to use the phone for 24 hours during Yom Kippur, Imus wanted to know if he called up any Jew that he knew, and they'll be stupid enough to pick up the phone. So he knew because Imus knew the Joe Hollander was Jewish. So he calls him up on the phone, and it's about like 8:30 in the morning. And Joe Hollander does what a lot of people do when it's a holiday, religious holiday or not. He was sleeping in. So Imus calls him up, and he actually wakes the poor guy up. He goes, "Hello?" And Imus says, "Hey, you stupid idiot! You're not supposed to pick up the phone today. It's a holiday." And Joe Hollander says, "Who is this?" And says, "Imus." "Imus?" Goes, "Yeah. When I come into work tomorrow, you're a dead man." Click. Hangs up the phone. One of the funniest bit. I mean, it was extremely funny, and I'm Jewish myself, and it was a funny segment. Of course, the next day, Imus repeated it for those listeners who didn't listen to the video as it happened. And of course, when Yom Kippur came around again, the next year, Imus was bragging for about like 2 weeks he was going to do it again. So since he was bragging about it, he was going to do it, Joe Hollander one-upped Imus. Because when Imus did call Joe Hollander's home, he got the answering machine. And technically that's what the answering machine on during the holiday either. But Joe Hollander had his answering machine on, and he had this message. "You have reached the home of Joe Hollander. I'm sorry I cannot return your call today because it's a Jewish holiday and I'm not allowed to use the phone." And this is Imus. It was absolutely hysterical because Joe Hollander went up them. And it was absolutely hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. At least that stuff was was funny. And of course, he would have the Kiki Freeman on, and Texas Jew Boys. He is a sponsor his records. Albert Deborah McClellan. Of course, he had Rob Baldwin doing impressions. Some of them, of course, you can see here up on YouTube. But there's my own little tribute to Imus, and God love him, and may he rest in peace. And I hope, my thoughts and prayers go out to his wife Deidre, his son Wyatt, plus his other 4 children he has. I already mentioned his adopted son Zach, plus he had 4 other daughters as well. I think like 3 or 4 other daughters. My thoughts and prayers go out to each and every one of them, plus all the other fans of Don Imus and his show, and his loyal fans. I consider myself one of the fans, and God love them. So thanks for watching the video. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel. Please forward this video to your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews, not only on my YouTube channel, but also at WC.com. That's OWDY.com. Homepage of another reviewer. And I should also mention this is most likely going to be my last video of 2019. And I also want to thank all my subscribers, all the people who tune into my videos. And hopefully I'm going to try and continue doing my videos in 2019 and how many more or less I'm going to do. Because unfortunately I'm running out of material for my videos. But I'm going to do the best I can in 2020 to keep my channel updated with new videos and stuff. So thanks for watching, and hoping to see you in 2020.